Welcome to Anomicast. I believe this is episode 4 now. We just confirmed that before I started. This week, we're going to discuss how to choose a client. I'm going to start out this time because I know that this has been an issue for me for a long time. It's been 15 years, over 15 years that I've been picking people to work for. I say it that way because I think people in my position often think of it the other way around, that people are picking you to work with them. And I think that from the developer standpoint, that's very hazardous. We often think of, I need a job, I need to make money. And that's the wrong starting place. What you need is something that you want to work on. And money follows that. And if you confuse that, you're probably going to have a horrible time. You're probably going to be miserable. You're probably going to have sleepless nights. And you're probably going to do bad work. Taking the effort and the discipline to make the desirable work environment, the desirable project be first priority is the most important step, I think, in picking a client. Pete, what were you thinking as far as a direction on this?
Yeah, I think if you're working for a person that is personable, that you can get along with, who has qualities and skills and attributes which are conducive to moving the work along successfully, you've got a better chance of success, of getting the work done on time, and of having a satisfied client. And maybe he goes and tells, or she goes and tells their friends, and you get more chances of work. Yeah.
I definitely think that relationship is primary. Beyond the technical aspect, the relationship you have with the client is primary. And what you said there is, I think, important, but it deserves quite a bit of discussion, and that is personable. What do you mean by personable?
Well, personable, it means someone who what should we say, what qualities make personable? Someone who is, well, say, willing to listen to what you say, is interested in what you say. Somebody who should we say, will be willing to learn. Somebody who is pleasant to speak to, not volatile or goes off the track of the conversation. Things like this. Somebody who's engaged and somebody who is human in the relationships sense.
Human and not extraterrestrial.
Yeah. You see, the other way around. If you choose a client, if you're desperate, say, for work, and you choose the first client that comes along, and that client you haven't really got to know a bit before you've chosen them, and the client becomes someone that you find difficult to deal with, who like tries to impose, say, their will upon you, even against your better advice in your field of expertise, things like that, or won't listen to you generally, is peremptory about his decisions. These sort of things, it makes a headache for you. It makes a headache for himself, and it reduces the chances of a happy ending, with success and a satisfied customer.
Absolutely. And again, there's a lot in that to unpack, because I'm thinking first and foremost about this reasonableness, this willingness to discuss. Many clients come to me and they're either in a panic, and perhaps that's the worst kind of client to work for, is one that's in a panic. Or I've had many occasions where the client had a bad relationship with the developer already. And that sets the tone for all of his relationships from that point forward. which is, I would say, quite hazardous. What do we advise to a developer? Let me see. I know that I have some advice whenever the client comes to them and says, I hired X and X messed up my system and I need you to fix X. Well, I think that the ego of a developer is such that he might believe, and he might sincerely believe this, that he looks at the other developer's work and he says, well, I could do better than this. But he doesn't really know anything about that person yet to be able to determine what caused the system to be in that condition. So if you've never worked with a person before, and it's a takeover situation like we frequently talk about in Project Takeover Blues, you're faced with this conundrum of, what do I exactly believe? And I think the first rule of a developer should be never question how someone wrote or designed the system. Just take it that that's the way it is. And don't disparage the original person who did the work, because you really don't know, and you might never know what the whole story is. This is related to picking a client, because if the client is coming and he's abusive about what the original developer did, it's probably not that big of a stretch to think that he might treat you the same way because he either feels wronged or cheated.
Yeah. I like to, you're right there, Matt, that we've said this before, that the sort of reverberations, the disputes, the tensions and conflicts that arise between developers and clients can all unpack themselves into the software work, not particularly deliberately or maliciously, but just as a natural consequence of the dysfunctional relationship between the two. I think we want to sort of, if you're say, if you don't know anyone, what qualities do you need to look for in a person to be able to assess them as whether they're someone you think you can work with or not? Particularly if you want someone with an expertise and you don't know anything about their expertise, yet you want a good job done.
Yes.
I always think the idea of going into hospital for an operation, most people like myself know absolutely nothing about surgery. And yet you've got to, sometimes it can be serious, and you've got to trust yourself to the hands of a man or a woman you don't know. Yes. For a couple of hours, and it could be, it's possible it could be life and death, but it could be something a little bit less drastic, but it's still, sorry, go on.
Yeah, something a little bit less dramatic. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but you've got to entrust your body to this person. You're going to be unconscious probably while you've entrusted it to them, and you might want to feel confident, put yourself at ease that the person you're entrusting yourself to is someone you can have confidence in. So the qualities, what do you do? You know nothing about surgery. How can you assess this? How can you feel confident? Well, the thing here to bring in, the key concept here, which I know it sounds very old-fashioned now, and it might make me sound like reactionary, but it's the best word for it, is I suppose their appearance, what they say, do, behave like, as an expression of their character, is is probably the best indicator you can have as to whether you can feel safe about trusting yourself to this person. And the same with developers and clients. We could go on in a minute and unpack this word character, but Matt, maybe you want to say something about it.
Well, what came to my mind was evaluative criteria. There are turnoffs for both the client and the developer. I think that anytime you show strong emotion, either positive or negative, I think that that's not a good way to start out in a working relationship. What comes to my mind is, like, for the client, he might say, and I must have it this way, and if you don't do it that way, don't bother applying for an interview. I think that a lot of developers are going to immediately disqualify that client. And they're going to say, oh my goodness, he's like that only whenever we haven't even started working together and he's already threatening me.
Yeah.
I think that's a definite turnoff. And of course, the developer can do it the same way. He can say, if you don't do it this way, then I won't give you your product. If you don't, if you find yourself making threats on either side, then that's not good. That sends the wrong message. And on the other hand, if you find yourself promising things beyond, the remuneration or the product that you're supposed to deliver, that's not good either. So the client might say, well, if you do the good with this, I'm going to give you lots of work. That's definitely no. You don't say that, because it sets a false expectation. And an experienced developer will look at it and say, oh, you're trying to tempt me to give you something cheaper so that I might get more work. That's the first thought that enters an experienced developer's mind. Is like, you're just playing me. And that's not good. And on the other hand, the developer might say, well, I'll give you this and that and this for free. No. You don't say that. Whenever a client and a developer engage, it should just be about what the project is about. Or it should be about what they are like. What is it they like? I think being able to relate to someone is good. What kind of music do you like? That's a safe topic. Well, maybe, unless one of the two hates the other style of music and has some hang up about people who listen to music like that or whatever. Am I making sense?
Yeah. I think your first point about being a person being volatile, either the developer or the client, you want an even-temperedness in a person. You want somebody. You want to work with somebody who's not only even-tempered, but in a crisis, when under pressure, doesn't go ballistic or panic. It's at the very time you need clear thinking. If you get somebody you've got to manage emotionally at the same time as think clearly about getting out of an impasse, you've got double trouble. Whereas you've got an ally if you've got someone who's cool, thinks clearly, remains calm, and of course, thinking clearly in itself, with or without crisis, it is a great asset. This is go back to the surgeon again. If you saw a surgeon who was coming to operate on you in the next day, and he was or she was obviously making rash conclusions or was not thinking things through properly, and you observed this, you wouldn't feel too comfortable about it, especially someone. And if the surgeon lost his temper at, say, a nurse or an attendant, or was in other ways rash and broke out in fits of emotion in one way or another, that would be a turn off. That would really worry you. So there are things, even if you're not an expert, that you can use, indicators about people's behavior, to give you confidence in them, or the opposite, that they can do the job that they're offering to you or holding up for you taking on.
So it's kind of a profiling, behavioral profiling.
Yeah, you don't do it. You don't actually sort of reason it out. In not totally. You sort of like respond to it emotionally. Respond to one another emotionally, and you soon pick up the vibes emotionally when you start feeling uncomfortable. You know, you look for. Let's go to the surgeon again. If it's a man, you might look for corny things like shiny shoes, tidy dress. If a surgeon came to you with a sort of t-shirt and Bermuda shorts on, and a coat which has got a white coat with a few rips in it and a smudge of chocolate down it, you'd be. That's not, that's an exaggeration, but you understand what I mean. Just simply the dress of a person can make a difference. Yes. The way he treats is particularly the junior people around him, because they come in teams, don't they? The junior people around him who are perhaps learning, student doctors or nurses in attendance, how he treats or how she treats them, what their attitude is towards them, whether they try to bring them along with them, teach them as they go. All these things are indicators, and that you can transfer this to client developer relationships quite easily. It's only that I always think the surgeon patient is very much a sort of it's an exponentially sort of more critical situation. Perhaps nobody dies of bad development and nobody dies of bad clients.
It depends. I mean, you could be talking about a mission critical project, say a medical project or a nuclear power plant or aircraft or spacecraft, and you could be talking about millions of dollars or lives that might be on the line.
That's true.
Yeah, but in general, as I like to say, projects that most developers do, they're not mission critical projects. They're just not.
Yeah, and of course, pardon me. What you need as you go along is you'd need a person who you feel was perceptive, a person who saw, who went to the issues. I mean, this would be an ideal sort of client who went to the issues and didn't shilly-shally about the edges on questions that are either irrelevant or adjacent to the actual problem. This sounds like it's just a quality of intellect, but no, it's not. There are plenty of people who will be walking down the street, say, and they have every intention of going to work, and they see a billboard outside a shop saying, "Get $20,000 here free," and like you get a spam email to get $20,000 free, and say 9 out of 10 people on their way to work would say, another scam, and walk past. But there's always the one that will go in and be drawn into the scam at least to the degree until they understand that they're on a losing horse. But that time's lost. That sort of and the concentration of getting to work, the rhythm of getting to work has been lost, and so distractions and things like, well, I call it, I'm a bit sort of scaly here, but I call it idle curiosities like that, or idle speculations. They go nowhere, and if a person likes to indulge in those sort of things, he won't make the best. It won't. Well, it'll be it will arise. That aspect of them will arise as a difficulty in your relations with them.
So do you think that to just be concise, that the person must be focused?
Yeah, focused, but also not just have the ability to be focused, but to have the the resolution, you know, it goes back to character, and the resolution, the determination, the discipline to remain on the ball, on the case.
Yeah. And I guess that's in the developer world. This is very important. If the developer is divided in what he's doing, it's not a good idea. This is one of my beefs with the freelance world, that many clients go out looking for the cheapest developer they can get. And they think, oh, how lucky I am, I got a cheap developer. But the guy's working in 6 projects at one time, and he can't really give you focus. Or this, if he can balance, you know, more than 2 or 3 projects at a time, he's superhuman.
Yeah, that's right. It's like some people read, say, half a dozen books at once, which I've never understood or been able to do myself. But it's a similar thing to that. And of course, one wonders sometimes whether they read any one of those 6 properly. But likewise, the other thing, another thing I'd like to bring in is the understanding that no matter how expert you are or how skillful you are at your trade, I was a client, as a marketing person, or as a negotiator or a manager, or as a developer in software code and experience in building websites, etc. There will come times where you may well reach a sticky problem, and whenever that happens, knowing that that's the time to seek help, and being no matter how expert you are, having enough humility, I suppose, to say, I need help now, and to go and find it and seek it out, is an important aspect of being good at your trade, you know, being an expert.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that's another, you know, if the client advocates in his presentation, well, you know, I could do this myself if I had time. I think that really a client should never say things like that. Maybe the developer should get and appreciate what the client could or couldn't do, because he might need to know what the client could understand whenever he communicates with them. But at the same time, I think that there's also sometimes this implied, you know, threat, like, well, you know, you're not special, developer. If you make me angry, I'll just take over and do it myself.
Yeah. There is that aspect of if I had time, I would do it myself. I think to some extent it's not too bad, but on the other hand, it can imply that, you know, this is a secondary job in my estimate, and I suppose that devalues it up front for a little bit at least. But then again, we all have our moments when we think we can do more than we can, or can do better than we can.
Absolutely. No doubt about that.
You know, it's the wife struggling with a tin and a tin opener, and you say, give it to me, and you end up apologizing to her again because you can't do it either, you know.
Or my favorite is, she can't open it, you can't open it, you give it back and she can open it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Or your 8-year-old child comes by and opens it up.
That's right. Yeah.
Hey, Pete, I'm getting quite a bit of feedback. Could you turn down your speaker?
Yeah, so sorry. Just a minute. Is that Matt?
Okay, I'll try. I still hear myself, but it's better.
Okay. Yeah. And of course, looking from the client's point of view and a developer, there's the old, I think we mentioned this before, the old Socratic thing about the developer who is very good at what they do, but because they're very good at what they do, they believe they can pronounce on all sorts of things they're not expert in. And of course, you've got a client then managing someone who's opinionated, you know, and vice versa. It can happen that, I suppose, that the client's opinionated and might have strong views on something or the other, and so like a bit like the Jehovah's Witness, people won't have blood transfusions for their children, rather let their children die than have a blood transfusion. It's a strong view. It's something which they won't compromise on, and yet to all intents, it's a tragic outcome and something that could easily be avoided. And this sort of dogmatic, almost blind faith in something being true or something being necessary or vital, and it's not up for grabs. It's not up for a negotiation. It's a sort of shibboleth, I suppose. You get those in a developer or a client, and sometimes you can't work around them because, like the blood transfusion example, the result is fatal. And that again goes back to, I suppose, to character, but not quite. I think it's something different to character. Somebody with something like a fixation on an idea. It's something perhaps a bit more pathological. I don't know. That said, there are instances of people who do hold to things which, let's say, are not sine qua nons to most people. And it's like, I believe you had a job, Matt, for someone, and they actually wanted commas removed. Can you tell us about that? Commas removed?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
It was a job where there was a middleman between you and the client, and the client was feeding the middleman with very particular, very trivial must-haves, no compromise. And it even went right down to removing commas between sets of lists, and they wanted the commas removed. It was a chore to do it. It could be done, but it was a lot of work, a lot of money. Were they willing to pay for it? And of course, you know, it made no palpable difference to the vision, the view of the thing, or to the performance of the thing. It was all in all an unreasonable demand, something so trivial that it shouldn't have been made an issue, and yet it became a major stumbling block. That's how it went, Matt? Yeah.
Well, this is not really pertinent to picking a client, but and in fact, it's something that wouldn't be revealed during an initial interview. But I had a client once that would give me a task, and then I would tell him it was done, and then he would come back to me and says, "No, it's still broken. I just checked it." So you go back and you check it, and it's not broken. It's fixed. And you go back and say, "Okay, well, I kept seeing this. It kept happening, and I kept wondering what you're doing." And I finally put a little piece of code in the page that I was working on that would email me when someone visited it. And sure enough, he wasn't checking it at all. He was just saying immediately, "It's still broken. Go back and fix it." And if you see someone playing mind games with you like that, I tell you, that's just an absolutely silly thing for a client to do. Because what happens if that person is smart enough to figure out that you're playing the game? Well, that's going to hurt the relationship.
Yes, indeed. And you get allied to that is the client that likes to test you, clandestine tests, as it were, put obstacles in your way in order to test you, to seek to sort of I don't think it's malicious. I think it's just to reassure themselves that you're up to the mark and that. But is it really ethical? Is it really something sort of peculiar to the client that they should want to, or think they should be able to test you like that?
Well, I can understand the motivations.
Yeah.
Behind someone who would do something like that.
Yeah,
but at the same time, sorry.
I'm saying that if you want to test someone, I think you tell them you're going to do it. You don't do it surreptitiously. I think, because especially you don't lay traps for them. In the same way as the chap who wasn't checking the work was laying a trap for you, but it was a bit of a more nasty trap. But nonetheless, just to solve an anxiety by laying a trap for the person you're anxious about, with no real evidence that there's anything to be anxious about other than your own inner fear, the sort of Roosevelt, nothing to fear but fear itself. You're doing something unethical. Yeah, go on, mate.
Okay. Pete, I think we're at about 30 minutes.
Okay.
So I think we need to probably wrap it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's really surprising how fast 30 minutes goes by.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and it's nice to see, because I think we're actually interested in what we're doing if the time goes fast, and if we're interested in what we're doing, maybe the result is beneficial to someone. Yeah. As I say, if I'd just like to say before we finish about being upfront, we're not testing people clandestinely, is that being upfront is always a good idea. There's an old saying by Sir Walter Scott, the man who wrote books like Ivanhoe and Rob Roy. He's got a famous saying it as "Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive," and that is very, very true. Anyway, I'll let you sign off, Matt.
Well, thanks, Pete, and I always appreciate these discussions, and I'm glad that we do this as a free format show, and it's not really a program thing. We just take a topic out and share our experiences. And I think that that's ultimately more effective than something that's pre-programmed. I'll let us all go, and next week we'll be doing meta-anomalies. And if you want to email the show, just email us at management@anomalous.design.com.